I hope you can still feel excited in this moment before tea. So a little bit about PHILIPPINE. PHILIPPINE is a Hong Kong-based Christian NGO. Our donations and support mainly from church and Christian group based in Hong Kong. And our also mission statement is like through church to church. So we also support Christian NGO and church like in different parts of the world. In China in particular, like we have our own program, implementing. So we are not, when some of the place we work with church, and some of the place like we just want that development program, when church is not in place. So basically our, so trying hard to learn to use this. Okay, yes. I guess like after Ramesh presentation, India has a population of 1.2 billion. China has 1.3 to 1.4 billion. Mostly, I think we cover most of the Asian population. So, and I can also guess we cover most of the capacity, is covered, that happen in different places. So, so that's why I have the advantage of sharing China, because that means any kind of situation happen in China is happened. We all apply, and anything doesn't work in this place doesn't mean it doesn't work in other place. And also it's all apply like the way you work in your place doesn't mean it work in other place. So that means whatever I share is true in some place, So also means like my experience is also very limited, when you think of cover China such a big context, Asia is so different. So just kind of a sharing, and you're welcome for your comment, because I know some people have been working in China, you have different experience, also very valuable, So I'm so happy I have the privilege to share what we got from the China experience. So some background, if for those people who doesn't know China very much, I think some background to set how we work in the China context. That one. If you know, China become a giant nation, most things begin in China. Great revenues, great investment, great leaders. Also they have great efforts in fighting poverty. So I think the background, we are a little bit different from some countries, they still, have a very low, poverty level or GDP, whatever. So that means it's quite a powerful country, in the sense for the last 30 years. We have a big government, the context, and small society. So that's the context we are working, that means the government actually want to in control of different things. They can control. What we unique is still one party state, which is Communist Party. They claim they are socialist, planned economy, and big military. But for recent years, they have very strong, declaration or mission that stability is something they have to maintain, and harmony. So if you think of this as what's the, heading or strategy or things for the country. I heard that the revenue or the input they put on stabilizing the country is more than they put in the army. That means a lot of things they going for the secret police, the army, they're checking all what the NGO is doing, what the foreigners are doing, all kind of things. And they also put a lot of money on make sure the society and the community are, stable, and not causing trouble. For the reality is more and more communities actually have more protests and accusation about government. So that's why it's kind of counter strategy. They have to do more things in this area. So basically the background. I actually will spend more time to go on the challenge. Any questions? Okay. Try to get more for the challenge part. So if the things we share different things, some of the background of NGO It's also different from some other countries that have long history of development or NGO work in there. It's only before 1949, well, before the Communist Party take over China. Actually, China has a lot of different parties, traditional association groups, village hall. They take care of the civil society's affairs, and there's a lot of church missions in China. From 1949 to 1978, when the Communist Party took over, they actually is a bipolar social structures, government and people, plan the economy. So very dichotomy, situation. So at that time, almost all NGOs disappear. It's only government. So they have the commune, they have labor commune. It's all parties' activities. And in between, we have the cultural revolutions, where all NGO activities almost ceased. So I think the turning point of China is since 1978, where they have the China economic reform. So we start to have more NGOs coming in, just booming, but it's still very controlling. They have some kind of NGO, government organized NGO. So it's part of the NGO established by the government to get funding from international. So this is quite a similar dynamic NGO in China. But they're very strong. If those people know China, they know some of them also work very good. Okay, and community-based NGO is mostly the government very cautious about because it's community-based. Okay, some of the background. Where the development, I think one of the turning points, like even Cedar Fund was found in 1991, is when they have big disaster in China, church in Hong Kong in particular try to think about, well, shall the church in here just sitting in Hong Kong like this, or we should mobilize more Christians in Hong Kong to take care about our own country in China. This is before 1997, Hong Kong returned to China. So, and then a lot of NGOs trying to set up. But if you're looking at the government attitudes, it's still government-led. But 1991 is the starting, the government started to appeal for international assistance. Before that, we didn't hear much about international involvement in China, but it's just because of this disaster hit in flood, And so international NGO make donations for the role of NGO. And later, in 1998, all the flood, it's still government-led, in the direct operation. But gradually, and the role of NGO is just assisting, supporting. They get involved, they distributing things. In the snowstorm, some gongo, still the government owned, they involve infrastructure. So you may suspicious, they also have some acquisition, so they can get a lot of donation for their own interests, But also, I can't say there is a corruption, but there's all kind of that. The gongo can become very great, And but still, for the government, it's still the thing. There's still lack of disaster operation plan, and the lack of guideline to NGO. Because since 1991, more NGOs are coming in, international, local. It's more like international in a way. So a lot of operation guidelines are actually introduced by NGO. And 2008, the government also start to partnership with NGO. We could also say there's a lot of progression or opening up of the government, for China for the last 10, 15 years. So they also recognize the role of NGO of supporting the government. So they now start to partnership with NGO, but at the same time, there are more public demands for accountability. Well, basically, more people from China are going aboard, more being educated, overseas coming back, more query, more demand, from the public about accountability. So also push more grooming of grassroots NGO because they want to monitor how the money is spent. So, and then 2010, they start to have some foundations coming up to control the use of the fund. And NGOs will be getting more and more active in involved in the disaster work or even development work, resource allocation, and become more rational. So I think before that, somehow, even a lot of international NGO is kind of getting to China is an opportunity of involving the community. So a lot of donation may not be the real actual needs of the community, but they just want to get related or got connected with the government or the community. But gradually they are more rational in using the fund. Because they like 2013, I think government want to give more guidance and control and limitation. So they have more rooms for NGO to get involvement, but they got to be under the scope of the control. So they may be in disaster work, they have a lot of roadblock, permit, to get into disaster area, so they have this kind of control. And maybe at some point we will put this double standard. Double standard means, like, if you're doing it good, they may open up a new area for you to operate. But if you're not good, they can give you to restrict that. No, this is a forbidden area. So they have the rules they want to apply, either one. If you have good understanding, good relationship with them, or in the way, going back to the one of stability. Anything is not uprising the stability, they will actually do more. But when you suspect, it may cause this imbalance of the power of the stability. They may have a lot of effort to restrict it away. So this is also the experience, like how you work within the gap or the space they provided. So part of government implement. But the role of the NGO is getting more and more involved, and a partnership, identity with it, which is actually a good move. So like in China, we also have different kinds of disaster is covered, bigger scales, larger scales, or so. These are some of the landslides, big landslides. Some villages actually the whole underneath. Windstorm, all the crops being washed. Earthquake, flood after earthquake, is the situation. The whole big scale Sichuan earthquake, SARS, which also is a big hit, on weakening the government about to think about the whole process of disaster management. Well, after disaster, it's a lot of loss. This guy is carrying the dead body of the wife after they find in the ruins. So it's kind of story covers a lot of touching story, because this man still carries the wife's body, a long way from the ruins, back to the home. So death of the animals, snowstorm, the school all run down, the school bag, the books is still there. I think we all experience all these touching scenes, when you go in the disaster situation. What's unique in China is the leader figure. All the time you will find the leader is in the scenes to, we call it unified, the national spirit of, the country are capable to take over the situation, trust us. So this is quite the appealing image that always happens in China's situation of disaster. That means the leader is there. So if you reckon all the time when there's a big disaster, when you see a leader, that means they want to settle the community or the public, concern about is the country under control. Or in China, they also have very efficient mobilization of the military, the army. It's really quite true that they always come very fast, do the rescue, saving the lives, the leaders in it. This all kind of things is quite popular in China media. Saving life, saving animals, all these touching pictures. So this is the background, when you see disaster, how it is doing. That means usually in the very relief or rescue stage, emergency 72 hours. Usually for NGO like us, there's not much we could do. We just watch and see when we could really start to get in. So it's more like, you know, the government doing the rescue and dealing with all the big issues, you know, the landslide. And NGO role would be more the supporting, you know, for the needs assessment, start to fundraise, start to coordinate volunteers. In the more transitional phase or restoration phase, government is still in the leading place. See for the Sichuan 2008 earthquake, like reflections of different NGO, even big NGO, they find it's very hard because they have to really wait for the government plan before you start the resettlement plan. So that's why a lot of funds also have a problem on sitting here they can't really use because it's really controlled under the government system. But NGO can still able to participate in the housing and counseling, you know, post-trauma support and education service. For rehabilitation phase, and then, actually government will withdraw. They leave more of the support to NGO or to the community. So that's actually the rooms that, like, if NGO are able to come in to pick up the work, and NGO will come to do more long-term service like, you know, psychosocial support and support work. It's more the role change, you know, in different stage of the relief disaster. And the church in China is also a bit different, maybe from other countries. I don't know what other countries are. They have non-denominational. So that means there's no Baptist church, no Anglicans, it's only one church. So you will find this is, I think it's quite unique, you know. There's only non-denominational system. So, and the only one they count is the free self-church. So it's under the government system. That means self-government, self-finance, and self-evangelizing. So that means like we have a restriction in China on evangelizing to foreign, or as a foreigner, even from Hong Kong, we can't evangelize to local people. We will totally abuse the law. But the local church can do it. And they have to find their own finance. That means they can't accept funds from other church outside. So that means other church, like they have a mother church from the States or UK, they can't have the church like in China. Another phenomenon happen, like they also have home church in China, which is grooming. The situation out there, some coastal church, big city church, they are more affluent. And rural church in China, they are mostly made up of minorities, pretty poor community, and which started from early missionary in, you know, before 1940s. So this is one of the coastal church with a lot of believers, few thousands. And very quick, go through the earthquake lately, you know, in Ya'an in China, where in April, like we shared a little bit, we have 7.0 Richter scale, so a lot of people get affected, some die. The things like, there was no church in the area. So at that time, like the local government was suspicious about Christianity. You know, still area not pretty open up. And this is the map. And it's also the situation like in China. You can see the yellow star here. It's quite common in China, like, you know, they will announce that this is the epicenter. That means like the place they're most affected. But actually this is not the place that's most affected. But this is the place more easier for the leader to go there and the media to go there. So there has less trouble to handle all the NGO. And actually most of the most hit areas amongst in those of the arrows. And where the road is, you know, most collapsed, the distributing of the relief items is more difficult. That's why for Cedar Fund we still have one relief activity hasn't finished because the road hasn't through yet. And the start place is where the leader or the media, even they want the NGO to go there because it's less affected. So so maybe it's one of the strategies. So for us, we have to get enough wisdom to know where is most affected and get the program there, you know. Yeah. some of the situation, like, as most people, the landslide everywhere, the collapsed house, the tent is actually by the government. They distribute very fast, very efficient in some way. Collapsed house, the tent by their own. Collapse of the bridge. I think this is more similar. This is also the tent, given by the government, and the temporary kitchen for the villagers. We do assessment with the community, so we share some story yesterday about the husband. Actually, they just borrow money to build the house and all collapse. And they start the partnership. Remember, there's no Christian there. I think one of the disasters, like, it attract not the Christian from different places of China to go there. So what they do free haircut for them. They communicate with them for the local church. So it starts to build a relationship, when they are waiting. So this is also some of the assessment we find. I think some of the step is quite similar with others. And they will like how CEDA work with the government. We have the own process of monitoring. And this partner will be involving home church, their own free cell church, and different government department. So all the detail we can't explain, but we start to coordinate through the project, give a platform for the local church or home church people to give service, like volunteer service or counseling service. Something may be different, like what we distribute in this one. This is a storage tank where they can store the whole year food inside, which is very much welcome for them. As what I talk about, like, is a big government society. So the relief item, the ration, the noodles, the rice, they give it straight away, the tent, even the quilt. But what most farmers or rural people concern is their food. So this storage is really much, accepted, like by those villagers, because this one can be used after even the disaster stage. And this one is sanitary packs for the woman. As we were shared yesterday, most of the men work outside. It's the woman and the children left behind. And when they can't go back to the home, this is the daily necessities they want. And very little people will care about, like, the woman's needs. And this cooking oil, and this is dust plastic sheet. So when there's rain or the muddy floor, they can still use it. So some of the items may be quite different from the others using. So that is a quotation, and that's the way, like, how we distribute the items to them and knowing it. And the distribution of it. What is interesting, like, the people, all the things are coordinated by church volunteers, like after the relief items. And those people, they come together, they're doing together. And the interesting scenario is, because of the Christian from other places come as a volunteer, they stimulate the mutual cooperations for the local villages to work, to help each other. Because you see, the team is very big. They can't just handle by themselves. So they're helping each other because some people are from far away to help them. So I think this you also experience. When the monitoring, what's interesting, the community set up their own monitoring team to evaluate, and we go to check them. So this is how the system we engage with them on the checking. We also organize some other church, the medical team from another church from Sichuan to give, like, gracious treatment for them. So it's also kind of an entry point to a platform for other church people, Christian from other places to involve. Tent, after the checking, the home visit, like when we check it, like the beers, the underwear, the plastic sheets, the oil, everything, the checking system. And the social service, again, is all local Christians over there to engage in all these kind of activities. And they will continue after the projects. Free massage, talking with the old lady, children's schoolwork. So that's the things the people leaving behind to work with the community. Because in China, there's a lot of young working workforce go to work in the city. So it's still a scenario they find the elderly is very lonely. So our rehabilitation project is to help them to link up the the connection, the linkage of community engagement. So this is the role or the flow of getting volunteers go fast. It's a challenge. I think it's well, as what I say, we think is unique, I think it's also common in many other places. It's the challenge between emergency relief and sustainable service. It's always the time in disasters, a lot of funding will come in, a lot of requirements come in, a lot of people want to come in, but not too many people will stay behind to work on it. And the resource for the restoration and rehabilitation stage is always less than disaster stage. So we're always hard to make a balance, between. And the government attitudes and the preparation, like in China is always, they got big funding. The negotiation is, they don't need your money, they don't need your involvement. In many cases, when we're doing liaisons with the government, equity is something very concerned because it will trigger the community stability. One case, if you've seen, like we have the big tent, the storage tent, our experiences when we're going to distribute to the community, the government drop us. The reason is because the people like it. And the community found out the price, the quotation we got, is cheaper than the government distribute one, the same model. And the government is very worried, like if you give to the community, it will cost another village, they don't have it, very unhappy, and they will go for the protest. And it's always happen now. So they rather stop you. Sorry, we don't want a tent. No matter how good, it's for the community. So we have to make a lot of quick negotiation and adjustment to negotiate, okay, maybe we don't give to this whole village, and the other village we distribute to every families in order to settle the government concern. So this always happens about like the government attitudes and preparations. So this is kind of experience of judgment, like you can also see about like if you, from your own point of view, we think you're doing good things, but maybe you're causing troubles to the government, then you may actually have to make your operation exit the whole project site. So this is how we could balance the interest, from different stakeholders in the way. Donors requirement, it's always happened, like when we got money from Hong Kong government, they want every change, you got to apply and get approved before you can change your activities. Even a small number of household change. And if you all work in disaster situation, you will know the information, the data, the household, every day's change. One day you can, still transport the things to the village on that particular day, but a rain come in or this landline, everything broke. The administration cost will much higher because you got to hire another, truck, transport team. So you really have to really adjust immediately at the spot. But sometimes donor requirement be very restrictive. So this is also a challenge. And also kind of staff support. Because like we don't know what disaster will hit in different area. So we can't really predict it's a snow, it's a flood, it's an earthquake. What we can do is just preparation. What we are also trying to do is also disaster risk management training with different church people. So make sure that they're more ready on the spot. And also procurement. This may be some of the strain in China because most things we can make in China. But the procurement or the logistics is also another challenge because on making transport to there. So there's actually some more to share in complexity, but I hope we can share more after the sharing, so we can. I could guess there are a lot of commonality and uniqueness in different places. Okay, and what we can share. The last one, what we can come from the Bible is still, what we work in disaster, working with different stakeholders, is really patience, perseverance, and hope that we could change and bring the change of the life to